Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried and Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Hey everyone, this is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Welcome to the You're OK Mental Fitness Studio. I would like to thank our sponsors, Ned Siegfried, Luke Peterson, and Todd Bradford with Siegfried and Jensen, Mark Richards with Wasatch Recovery, Colby and Mackenzie with Thread Wallets, Drew Peterson with First Digital, Greg Jackson with Mountain West Spine and Orthopedics, and Travis Whitaker, the owner of Living Recovery Interventions. And also, I'd like to give a shout out to Paul Cardall. The music that you hear at the beginning and the ending of these episodes is by Paul Cardall. He's an amazing person, and he's been one of my heroes for years. So thanks to all my sponsors and Paul Cardall for believing in me. I love you guys so much. Please enjoy this next episode. Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Thank you for tuning in once again. I love you guys. I appreciate all your support and your belief in me. We're going viral on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. We're ranked in the top 100 in mental health in the world. We just posted our, I think, 296th episode, and I just can't believe it. It's just amazing, and it's trending because of amazing people that I have on the show. It's not because of me. And today's no different, and we're taking a little different approach today, which I'm so excited. I actually have my daughter today and her roommates from BYU and UVU. I guess they're maybe no longer there, a couple of you. But today we're joined by, we've got Mady Bishop, Annie Reese. What's your...
Whitlock.
Whitlock.
Is my new
I'm
last
so sorry.
Name. You're good.
Yes. She was just recently married to an amazing man. And so Annie's in the house, and then my daughter, like I said, Kenidee Marx. Yes, we got to throw on that. She was just recently married as well. But I want to give a little background. So Mady, you served a mission in New Hampshire, Manchester. You graduated from BYU in a BA in communications. You're also work at Qualtrics. Did I say that right?
Yep, that's right.
And what do you do there?
I'm in their finance department.
Department, okay. And then you teach high fitness.
I do.
Yes, Mady we were just talking about, this girl's very competitive. She works on a high level. She's really high energy, but she's really good at that. And we'll get more about her in a minute. So Annie, you also, you served a mission in Oklahoma City. And you also attended Brigham University, where you helped create and lead a women's entrepreneurship program. And you graduated with your bachelor's degree in public relations. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, and then you currently work, where are you working at now?
I work at Connect doing software sales.
Yes, and I hear you're one of the best salesmen.
I don't know
all the
about
time.
that.
Kennedy's always talking about, man, she's the best salesman. She's beating everybody. She's doing amazing.
No, it's true.
She kills it.
And my daughter Kenidee is currently serving at Utah Valley University. She served in Tonga.
Yes.
Mission there, which I'm amazed she made it through it, to be totally honest. Like the stuff she went through, a Category 5 cyclone hit there, a direct hit. We couldn't talk to you for I think it was 10 days. Yeah. That was a scary time.
Yeah.
She just recently, like I said, just got married, and you currently work?
I work for a clothing company, doing PR for them. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of fun.
Well, and there's a lot more about these three amazing, beautiful women, but we'll hear more about them from them. The reason why I brought these three on is I wanted to get their perspective of what it's like to go through college together as roommates, the highs, the lows, the funs, the stresses, the times that things are going well, and maybe times where things aren't going so well. And I think this is going to be so well received. So many parents need to listen to this, because they need to understand what their child might be going through, whether they're in high school or college or whatever. But so thank you, girls, for doing this.
Of course.
This is so exciting. So why don't we start, Annie? We'll just go around the room this way.
Okay.
Annie, why don't you just tell us a little bit about where you grew up and about your family?
Yeah. So I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we lived in Bountiful for a few years.
Okay.
youngest of 7 kids, so I am the caboose.
Yeah.
So my family dynamic now, I have like 15 nieces and nephews, 4 in-laws. There's like 30 of us.
Wow.
So
Big family.
big family, big family. It's crazy all the time. And we lived in Utah for most of my life, with the exception of when we moved to New Hampshire, actually, which is where Mady served her mission.
Oh, cool.
And
connection.
my dad was the mission president for 3 years there. So I grew up on the East Coast a little bit.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, of course.
Maddie, tell us a little bit about your childhood and your family.
Yeah, I was born in Utah as well, and I lived here until I was 4 years old. Then we moved to Minnesota for 4 years, and then we came back to Utah, and I've been here pretty much since.
Yeah.
Have spent some time on the East Coast serving my mission, and went back out there to nanny for a little bit during college. But for the most part have been in Utah. And yeah, that's kind of a fun connection that Annie and I made when we first met, is that I had been to the home that she grew up in, because
No
she,
way.
yeah.
Really?
It was the same mission home that I literally
So
lived
That's
in.
awesome.
So.
And I served in that specific ward
Yeah.
that she grew up in. And
Yeah.
so we knew a lot of the same people, and that was just a really
Tons of
fun
connections.
Yeah,
connection.
and you two have known each other for a long, long time, right?
Yeah. Well, I
been a
first
minute
met
now.
Kennedy.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
were
really?
roommates.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
okay.
then like 4 months later, I met Maddie.
So we've known.
Mhm.
So it's like pretty much the same timeline.
Oh, okay.
So,
Probably
yeah.
like 2016-ish.
2017. Yeah.
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 When we
Yeah.
got from our missions.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Kennedy, you better say a lot of nice things about your childhood
Yeah.
and family.
My
Where did you
childhood.
grow up? Tell us about your family.
Best dad ever.
Yeah, I also grew up in Utah, born and raised in Sandy, Utah.
Yeah.
I am the 3rd child. There's 4 of us, older sister, older brother, younger sister. So lots of girls, and then
Yeah.
my poor dad and brother
Yeah. We were outnumbered.
going to all the dance recitals every year. And yeah, so I've lived in Utah my whole life, except for like my mission. So other than that,
Yeah.
I've just been here.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
Well, that's just a little bit of background. I think what I want to get into is, again, and you guys chime in, just how did you guys meet? I know you mentioned just a little bit already,
Yeah.
but how did it happen?
So, I met Annie's cousin when I was in the MTC. Her name's
Oh.
Emily. Shout out to Emily.
Shout
we
out.
love
We hope
her.
you're listening.
Right. You better be listening.
Yeah. And Emily and I didn't even serve in the same mission. Like, not even. She served in the States. I served in Tonga, but we just really connected in the MTC.
Okay.
And we were like, let's live together when we get home. Like, we're both going to be at UVU. Let's be roommates. And so she messaged me on my mission. We got it all figured out. And then she was like, do you care if my cousin lives with us? And I was like, oh, not at all. And her
I'm the
cousin was
cousin.
Annie.
You're the cousin. Okay.
Yeah.
Cousin.
And so me, Annie, and Emily lived together at the Riviera for
The Riviera.
the Riviera.
Yes.
Humble beginnings.
we each spent our time there.
There, yes.
Yes, we've
yeah.
done our
Yeah.
time,
Good
right?
Time there. And then cute Emily got, she decided to switch up her major a little bit and transferred to Utah State. But
Okay.
Annie and I just became the best of friends.
Yeah.
And we've lived with each other up until we got married for
Yeah.
like 5 years. So
Yeah.
5 years.
kind of
Right
crazy.
Yeah. And then Maddie, how did you guys all come together?
Yeah, so I met Annie in school. We both studied public relations, and we had our first, like, our intro to communications class together, and we got put on, like, a group project together.
But
Oh.
before the
So-
group project, I have to interject. I remember walking into class and like, okay, where am I gonna sit? Like, who are the cool kids? Who are
Yeah,
the
sit
cute
by.
boys? Who are the cute girls? Whatever.
Yeah.
And I saw Maddie, and I'm like, she looks super cool. And then she was
Well, I
like,
thought the same thing about you.
she's
so.
like raising her hand, like answering all the teachers' questions. I'm like, and she's smart. I have to be friends with her. And so then when we like were put in this group for this group project, it was like, okay, this is awesome. We get to
Yeah.
be friends.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you found the cool kids.
I
That's
found the
good.
cool kids.
Yeah.
Maddie.
Yeah, for sure. And then Kennedy and I met through Annie. So they were
Okay.
living together And that's when you were at Alpine Village.
Alpine Village. Me
Can
and
you
Annie hopped
pinpoint it?
around.
Yeah, we did.
I can.
Yeah,
We
you can tell
It's a very
us.
special story.
Yeah.
So, Maddie and I, we always talk about like it was very like divine design that we were supposed to meet each other.
Yeah.
Just a little bit about me. Back in 2020, I got home from my mission and just was really struggling with things. I'm not gonna cry.
I will, so it's okay.
This is a safe place to
Yeah,
cry.
safe place.
You can
But I finally decided to get help, and I was diagnosed with an eating disorder and bipolar depression, which was very hard at the time. Looking back now, I'm so grateful for it, and as
Yeah.
my dad would say, it's my superpower. But I was embarrassed about it, really embarrassed, and sorry. I was studying from a book called Intuitive Eating, and I thought I had hit it before Annie had planned a girls' night. But it was on my desk in my room, and cute Mady was in our room, and she was like, "Oh, are you reading Intuitive Eating?" And I was like, "Oh no, because like I just
Like that
not
book was
that
supposed to
there-
be hidden.
yeah,
right?
not that there's anything wrong with an eating disorder, but like or
Yeah.
depression or anything, but I just was like, I never thought it would be me,
Yeah.
you know."
Well, it's a vulnerable thing.
Very vulnerable. And so cute Mady like brought it up and was just like, "Oh, like nonchalant, like I hope you don't care if I say this."
Yeah,
But she's just like,
yeah.
I struggled with an eating disorder, and I was like it was just like this weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not alone." Like
Yeah.
this cute girl who you would look at and never think, like I just
Yeah.
always thought because I was diagnosed with this, people would see me as like, "Oh, like she's depressed, or she hasn't eaten," and it was the first time that I was like, "Oh, she is one person that I would have never thought
Yeah.
had an eating disorder." So
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Wow.
I love you.
We're all crying
I
now.
know, sorry,
Yeah.
Well,
right off
and-
the bat.
Yeah, exactly. And then after we like made that connection, we were like, we should go to lunch sometime and just talk. And so we went to our favorite place, Aubergine. And I think
It's the only
The
place
amount
we
of
eat.
times
the only place I know.
You don't usually
seriously.
hear guys saying that. It's
Yeah.
Yes.
guys are like Crown Burger.
We are Aubergine.
Yeah.
Yes. I think we were probably there for 2 hours just
Yeah.
talking about our different struggles. And I think at that point, you mentioned that like I was just like so nonchalant
Yeah.
about like I have an eating disorder, and that's actually something that I have been kind of intentional about doing every now and then. At least
Yeah.
I don't love talking about it sometimes. But I've found that when I share, it often opens opportunities for me to be able to talk to other people who are struggling with it.
Totally.
And so that was just like it was honestly like a healing moment for me in that process to be able to I remember sitting across the table from you and just being like, I want you to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and that it's going to get better. Like, because I think especially for anyone struggling initially with any sort of disordered eating disorder, that it just feels like a,
Yeah.
thousand
It has a grasp
1,000 pound
on you.
yes boulder
Yeah.
that is just on your back, and you were thinking about it consistently. And I just remember having thoughts of like, oh my gosh, I am gonna have to carry this rock on my back for the rest of my life, and this is just so heavy, and it's the first thing that I think about when I wake up, and it's the last thing I think about when I go to bed. And I'm just so grateful that hasn't been the case. So just to be able to, that was very healing for me to be able to just look at you and say, I promise it's going to get better.
Yeah. And I didn't
So-
believe her at first. I will say that. I was like, yeah, whatever. This
Yeah.
is the hardest
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But preparing for this podcast, I actually was going through my notes, and I have one all about everything I've learned through my eating disorder. And I have notes from my lunch with Mady
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
on there.
So
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Special.
Divine design.
Yeah.
For sure.
absolutely.
It's Bonnie and I always talked about how, Kennedee's roommates,
Yeah.
we knew you first. We've
Yeah.
known you for a long time.
Yeah.
And you're one of the fam.
Yeah.
And so are
I
you,
feel that.
Mady. And we just love you guys because, knowing that she was struggling, parents can do their part, and we
Yeah.
should, and I try. But when they can connect like this with you guys, it just was an answer to our prayers as well. So I just want you guys to know, we talk about it all the time, like, especially at your wedding when you guys were all there. We're like, you guys are the coolest group and the coolest roommates. again, with the highs and the lows, again, you're
Yeah.
human. We go through things,
Totally.
right? But to be able to have you guys connect on a level that I probably couldn't connect with my daughter on that level that you did and that you have with her. I mean, she's told me how many times she's opened up to you and
Yeah.
that you've been there, or, you know, for her as well. And I'm sure it goes both ways for all of
Totally.
you, but I just want you guys to know how much we appreciated just the way you guys, you know, came together as friends. It was really cool to watch.
Yeah,
Mm.
thank you. And it really just felt like a family. We always call ourselves the friend fam because it's more than just a friendship. Like, it genuinely is like a sisterhood. Like, we've been there through the breakups and the eating disorders and the long nights and the good times and the trips to Hawaii and the happy.
Yeah.
It's the good and the bad. And at the end of the day, like, we're always there for each other.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
friend fam.
Yeah. So, I think, let me ask you this. We'll start with you, Annie. You
Yeah.
know, obviously going through college and having roommates and this and that. What were, you know, I think, because when I look at you guys, like, and I think if people look out from the outside, oh, these girls, they're beautiful. They seem confident. They got it all. What's their problems, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you
We
guys,
have plenty.
I know.
What's not
But
the
like-
problem?
Yeah, exactly.
So Annie, maybe from your perspective, what are, you know, not just maybe what you've gone through, and you can share that too,
Yeah.
but just what do you think the average girl goes through when they're going through college and
Yeah.
all of these ups and downs and trying to date and find a husband maybe eventually or not, or I mean, just talk
Yeah.
about that for a minute.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was funny. We were driving here, and I was like, "What should I share on the podcast as far as like struggles go?" Because I have a laundry list. But, we can just focus in on college specifically. I think for me, coming off of my mission was one of the hardest times of my life. Like, I had served 18 months with total purpose. Like, I knew
Yeah.
what I was doing from 6 a.m. until 10:30 p.m. at night. And my purpose was really important, like teaching people about the gospel and
Yeah.
about their loving Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ. And then I got home from my mission and everything just shifted. It was like, okay, like, that's not necessarily my purpose anymore. Like, now I have to go to school for me. I have to go to work for me. I have to date for me.
Yeah.
And I just felt like everything I was doing was so selfish. It was like, I really, really missed just the joy and fulfillment that comes from like serving a mission and serving other people. So I struggled with that for a little bit. And I actually reached out to my mission president, who was still serving, and he gave me really good advice. And he said, what you're doing right now is not selfish. It is helping you prepare for the next phase of your life. Like,
Yeah.
and gaining an education and dating and doing all of these things that feel selfish, like, they're not. Like, you're actually helping your future husband and your future kids. So
Yeah.
it was kind of an identity crisis in a way, coming off of the mission. But once I got to school and I met my people, because like I met these guys within 4 or 5 months of being
Yeah.
down at BYU. So I immediately found my circle, found my people. So I never really had like issues with friends, but it was more with the boys.
Those dang boys,
It was
right?
It was the boys, and we don't need to go into too much detail, but just like, I did my fair share of dating, and I was like kind of always the girl with like a boyfriend. Not that I needed that, but it just like happened. Like, I'd end a relationship and suddenly found myself in another one. And some of them, everyone's laughing.
We love
'cause
you.
know
Yeah.
exactly what I'm talking about. Some of them were fun and lighthearted, and then there were some relationships that really just like shook me
Yeah.
and gave me serious trust issues
Yeah.
that bled into even the relationship with my current husband. Like,
Yeah.
we figured it out, but
Sure.
like, when we first started dating, like, I was very hesitant. I was uneasy to jump into a relationship. I still had like all of these like
Yeah.
fears and anxieties, and I'd been hurt and all of this stuff, which is totally normal to hear. Like, when you're dating, it's very vulnerable. So yeah, I definitely had my heart broken a couple of times before I met my guy. But yeah, those are some big ones that I think probably most girls in college can relate with.
Yeah, I would imagine, and you chime in, just like the stresses of just trying to, there's like a lot of pressure, you know. you got to have a career, you got to finish school, you've got to date, you've got to maybe find the one you love. And I mean, isn't there a lot of pressure and all that? You put social media on top of all that.
That's
Talk
what I
about
was going to say
Yeah.
is that like there's all those normal pressures and like trying to figure yourself out. Like you said, like even having a little bit of like an identity crisis.
Yeah.
But then it's like we have social media right there. And so it's just so easy to compare. And it's hard to, I think it makes it really hard to make a decision because you're like, oh, well, there's this and this and that. And you just like know all the options that are out there. And it can just really make it difficult to hone in on like, okay, who am I and what do I want to do? And like, what do I want to bring to the world, you know?
Yeah. You know, one of the things I teach my clients, the definition of depression is pretending to be someone you're not. And that's what happens. I think we're trying to fit in so much, you know, and I know, Kenidee, you've struggled with some of this. But think about that, pretending to be someone you're not. We're always trying to fit in over here or fit in over here. And we've almost kind of lost the identity crisis you're talking about, Annie, is who am I? Like, who am I really? Without the mission, without school, without the social media, strip all that away. Who am I, right?
Right.
And what do you guys think of that? How that plays a part in it? And maybe, what do you think, Kenidee?
Yeah. I don't know. I think, and it's hard because it's a different situation for everyone. I think we've been really blessed being able to cross paths with each other because we've gone through similar things. And like, I feel like we're all at a point now in our lives that even though we do struggle, but we all kind of have found our purpose, but we've all been at a point where we necessarily didn't know who we were. And that's definitely something that I struggled with, was not necessarily knowing who is Kenidee. And I feel like, because of the struggles I had, I let my struggles identify who Kenidee is. My eating disorder, depression. Something funny that I will share is a negative belief that I had as a child is I am 5'11" and I am tall. And that sounds funny, but like, I let that define me for so long. Sorry, why am I the crier today? This is not fair.
It's usually me.
You're like your dad. I cry at everything. So
my
you're
dad.
good. It's a safe place.
I love it.
But it's something that like I always struggled with. And it wasn't until I met these friends, which is so funny, but like for my birthday last year, I bought my first pair of like tall boots, and it was like, I'm just gonna own it. I'm gonna wear boots with heels. And they were like, this is your goal for your 24th year. You're gonna be tall. And I did, and literally met my 6'5" husband a month later. So
it was all about the boots.
And we were all so excited too. I remember we were like, you know, you were trying to, I think you were probably going on a date or going out or something, and you were like, do I wear them? We were like, wear them. They were very supportive. If I was wearing tall boots to make me not feel as tall, they would also wear tall shoes, which is great friends to have. But so I think aside from like, you know, the social media, school, career, I think we've all struggled with things from that we've grown up believing about ourselves, you know, and which doesn't help when there's social media and trying to figure out school and career. You're just comparing yourself a lot. I think comparison is big in college.
Yeah, I think, what do they say? Comparison's the thief of joy.
Totally.
How true is that? It's like, oh, I'm having a great day, and then I start comparing to that person next to me. It's like, oh man, I feel horrible. It's like, what?
Absolutely.
Right? And it's funny when we think of it logically, we go, why would we do that? Like, why would we do that? But we all struggle with that on some level. We're always like, oh man, I thought I was doing good till I compared myself to that person. You know?
And little do you know, they're probably comparing themselves to you.
Right.
You know, they look at you and think you are like the coolest person ever. And so I think it's just, it's hard. It's really hard.
I think the biggest bully in the world's our own thoughts, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Very well said. Thank you for sharing that. So, I mean, and I love just hearing you guys, how you had each other's backs. You know, you're hey, wear the boots, wear the boots. You know? But what I'm hearing, and I want to hear your thoughts, it sounds like you guys communicated a lot with each other.
100%.
So why is that important, do you think? Just not in general, but just as roommates and to survive this college years, you know, if you will.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about this a lot before, just because I feel like, at least from my experience, I haven't really found friendships quite like these. You know what I mean? Like, this feels different, and we've tried to pinpoint it, and we really have kind of nailed it down to, like, we just talk about our problems. Like, if we ever have an issue, or if something ever comes up, we're not like brushing it under the rug. We're not pretending like it didn't happen. Like, if our feelings are hurt, we're not going to sit in silence and suffer. Like, we will talk about them. And I think that is the number one like key to a successful relationship, is just being able to communicate, and living together, especially, like, even just little things like dishes.
Kenidee. Cute Kenidee.
We were joking in the car up here because we are clean people. We are very clean people. But the sink was always so full. And it would be so funny because everyone would say, oh, well, none of those are mine. But everyone would say that. So it's like, well, someone's dishes. These are someone's dishes.
Someone happened to put that, right?
And so it's like, well, it's like the running joke. Like, well, those aren't mine. Like, I didn't do it.
Welcome to every family in the world, right?
I didn't eat this week. So, yeah.
Exactly. So, big things and little things were always talked about. And I think that's what has kept our relationship alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'll say to that, that I think each of us has definitely had our disagreements at times, and we've gone through like differences. Like, I mean, I think 2020 was hard on everyone with relationships and just everything with COVID and politics. And we each had different ways of viewing what was going on and different opinions about things. And I think that at the end of the day, like Anne said, we were good at communicating and talking about things, but like in any successful relationship, there's been give and take in our relationships, and that we have chosen to love each other, and we've chosen to forgive and to make amends instead of letting some of those problems come between us. But I don't want to like paint this picture of, I mean, we have a pretty, like, as far as friend groups go, like, this is just a special friend group. But I think the thing that's kind of kept us together and made it even more special is that we have had some bigger disagreements or conflicts or different ways of viewing the world, and we've let that refine ourselves. Like, I learned so many different things from Kenidee and Annie, and instead of letting those differences separate us, we've let them bring us together as we've sought to understand and love each other through the difficult times.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's, how cool is that? Right?
And I think it's a matter of choosing each other. Like, as cheesy as that sounds, it's kind of like, I'm married, so I'm going to compare everything to marriage. It's the new thing for me, but it's like, you have to choose your person every day. And the same thing goes with like your friend group. Like, you're not going to let, little issues or big issues get in between your friends if you love them and you value that friendship and you want it to last forever. So we always just kept that mindset that, like, no matter what, like, we will grow old together and we will be friends until the end of forever, because we're choosing that. So
wow, beautiful. Wow.
And I think like one thing with communication is, like, if we didn't communicate with each other, we wouldn't be able to relate with each other. Like, Mady communicated to me, like, hey, I struggle with an eating disorder. And it's like, wow, it's almost like free therapy for me, because now I have Mady to go talk to. Or like, there's times where we've all had different low points in our life. Like, I remember having conversations with Annie where we both just felt super low, but we were able to talk with each other. And it's like, okay, now I'm aware that you're at a low point. Like, what can I do to help you? Or what can we do to help each other? And I mean, some of my most favorite memories living in this house. So we lived in a house right by Utah Lake, and it's a gross lake, but we wanted to
swamp.
We wanted to make it the cutest house. So we call it the coastal cottage, like as if we live on the coast, but we don't.
It's on the coast.
So some of my favorite memories in the coastal cottage is late night therapy sessions in the hallway of just like, let's talk. Let's, it's 2 a.m. We're laughing. We're just having the best time. We're crying. And we're like, how can I help you? I just think that like communicating has just helped us like become more of ourselves, because we're able to communicate with each other and like help each other. So it's been really cool.
Dang, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. The coastal cottage.
The coastal
I
cottage.
will say, I feel like because we were able to communicate, it made our home feel safe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like anything went. We could say anything and we wouldn't be judged for it. If we made a mistake, we weren't going to be judged for it. If we went out with that boy, like we weren't going to be judged for it. It's like
right.
we just loved each other, and like because we have this place where we can come home and like kind of leave the world and just like, you know, talk about everything. It really just felt safe.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, parents listening to this, like, I don't think they have a clue of what their son or daughter goes through when they head off to college.
Yeah.
Like what's really going on. Right. And how lucky it is. I think this is a special group because you guys are willing to talk. You know, Kenidee talked about it all the time. She's like, I am exhausted. I'm like, why? She goes, oh, we were up till 3 or 4 in the morning, you know, and you know, we pounded some monsters.
Yeah.
We
did.
plowed
I
through
have
it, but
one
you guys, it's cool that you guys had each other's back in that way. And I think I think it's rare. I really do. I know, you know, I work with a lot of college boys boys are a little different. They just maybe don't open up as much. I don't know why it is. I'm not saying that they never do that, but they just don't. They'll just sit in their pain. They'll just sit in it. You know, I can't share it with my roommate. He'd think, oh, I'm weak or whatever. So how cool it is to see that you guys are just so open with your struggles. And how cool, you know, when you said, oh yeah, I've struggled with that too, like how you just owned it. I had an opportunity to speak at the Utah State Prison. And before I got up to speak, they had 3 inmates get up before me. And one of the inmates, when he finished his talk, he said to the whole group, there was 120 inmates in there. He said, if you don't own your story, it owns you. And you just owned it. And because you owned it, it allowed her, my daughter, to be able to go, oh, I can now talk to you. But again, how healing and powerful that is. And vice versa. You own what you've struggled with, Annie, and vice versa. And just, I think that's the theme I'm hearing here is own what you're going through. It's okay, right? You're not a bad person if you're struggling with this or that. I don't know. What do you guys think of that, of owning it?
I think it's hard to get to that point to own it. It's on your own. It's definitely hard. And not to just keep jumping back to social media, but that's such a big part of our lives is social media. I mean, I feel like I'm okay with it now because I'm married. I feel like it was like, oh, you always have to be up on your social media because you're in the dating zone and you're trying to meet new people and all this stuff. But I feel like it can be hard to own your story because you don't want other people to perceive that about you. But in reality, like I said, I thought Mady was the coolest person because I was like, oh my gosh, you struggle like I do. Like, that's really cool. And so I just think I 100% think owning your story is so important, but it can be hard to get there. Really, really hard to get there.
So why is it, I want to hear your thoughts. Why is it we look at other people and you go, they're amazing, which you are, all of you are. But isn't it funny that we can easily spot it in other people, but we struggle seeing it in ourselves? Because, you know, the way she talks about you too all the time, I'm not kidding you. Like that's why Bonnie and I were always so grateful. Like, man, these girls, this is awesome to have friends like that in college. Why is that, do you think? Why do we struggle so much seeing that greatness and that awesomeness in ourselves? It's a tough question.
Yeah, it is a tough question. I don't know if this is, I just had one thought that came to me initially, and that is that I think sometimes we think all of that's just supposed to come naturally. We think that confidence is just supposed to come naturally, and for some people it does.
Yeah.
But I think for most people, it's something that you have to work for. Like, even, you know, Kenidee talks about me just nonchalantly bringing that up, but I'm like, there are years of work and therapy and
that led to
really
that.
digging in. Yeah, exactly. That led to that. And then a conscious decision to, like, if it's going to help someone, I'm going to share my story. You know, even coming on this podcast, I was kind of like, oh, do I talk about it? Do I not? You know, like, but it's like, you know what? If it's going to help someone, then absolutely.
Yeah.
So just, kind of that, what Kenidee said a little bit, but just like confidence and seeing and believing the good in ourselves can take work.
Yeah.
And that's okay. If you're a person that needs to put some work into it, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And I would say that I think it's good to work for those things, because then you're not going to lose them as easily.
Yeah. Wow. Very well said. Would you
Yeah.
like to add to that, anyone?
Well, just kind of going along with work. I think a lot of times, included, like going to college, it's kind of like you kind of follow the same routine that everyone else does. So I have to graduate in X amount of years. I have to have a career, by this time and all these things. And when I finally decided to get help, I decided not to go to school that next semester. And that was hard for me, because I'm like, I'm not following the plan at what everyone else is doing,
norm,
the norm.
Yeah.
And it was really hard because I was embarrassed. I would be on a date and they're like, so what are you doing? And I'm like, working and going to therapy. Like, that's cool. I wouldn't tell them therapy, but I just like, oh, I'm just working right now, but like, I don't have my degree yet. And that was really hard for me. Like, I almost didn't want to go on dates, because I'm like, I don't want to have to tell people that I'm not doing the norm, which is sad. But I think if I could tell anyone anything, it's be selfish and take time for yourself. Like, get the help. Get the help that you need. And I'm sure any of those dates, or even my friends, like, it didn't even faze them that I wasn't in school. Like, no one was probably like, you don't have your degree yet? Like, you're 20, you're 22 and you don't have your degree yet? How dare you? And it's like, okay, like, I think we just think that there's this norm that we need to follow, but it's okay to not. It's okay to take time. And like, the best thing I ever did was get therapy and get help.
Yeah.
And
Love that.
as hard as it was, I remember having to call my mom and say, I need help. And that was hard, because I mean, thankfully my eating disorder wasn't to a point where I had to, go into a facility, or my depression wasn't bad enough that I had to check in somewhere. But like, I was just, I feel like there's a stigma about mental illnesses, or, eating disorders and things like that, addictions, all the things. And if I could tell anyone anything, is that it's almost cool to have something like that, because I feel like you can just relate with some. I mean, it's not cool in the moment. It's so hard.
Yeah.
But you told me, Kenidee, one day this is going to be your superpower. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is the hardest thing, kind of like what Mady said. Like, it's something that I feel like I'm going to have to face the rest of my life. And I felt that way. And I do. I mean, there's days where it's like, sure, I'm going to eat 3 or 4 cookies because I want to, and it's, you kind of have those struggles every now and then. But it really, if you let it, if you let yourself kind of identify with it and work with it, it really can be your superpower.
Absolutely.
So. And I'll just chime in there and say that that was so inspired as a dad for you to say to Kenidee, because it is her superpower now.
Yeah.
Like, Kenidee is one of the most loyal friends that I've ever had. And when I'm having a bad day, oh my gosh, okay, now I'm gonna cry. But even just the other week, I've gone through a lot of just like changes recently, and I was struggling a little bit. And I was working from home, and Ken had texted me, and I kind of told her, like, I was honest, just like, oh yeah, I'm struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
And she is just so cute. She came over and brought this Clean Simple Eats pumpkin cake that she had made, this like healthy pumpkin cake. And she just sat on the floor in my bedroom and worked while I worked, and just sat there with me and talked to me and listened to me. And she's shown up for, I think, all of us. I think we can all say those moments where Ken has just like shown up and been the friend that we've needed. And I think a lot of that has come from those different struggles that she's had. So I'm so grateful that she decided to own who she is, to own her struggles, to work through them, because it's blessed my life so much.
I can retweet that.
Yes.
Also blessed my life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like a slice of that cake.
Hey, it was good.
No, I bet it sounded good. Yeah. No, again, that's so cool. Again, that you guys are so open that way. And I think anyone listening to this, that is the key, is communicating when you're struggling. And as a parent, coming from our perspective, a lot of times we're like, oh, our kids are doing great. They're fine. They're doing awesome. Seriously. Like and most of the time they probably are. But I love it that you actually reached out to mom and said, I'm struggling. Because we're always like, oh, you are? Hello, we're up here going, I thought everything was great.
Yeah.
But I think, kids listening to this right now, if you're struggling, tell your parents or tell a friend or sit down. I mean, it is hard to say that sometimes.
Totally.
I'm struggling, but man, that's a powerful thing to do. So I just encourage anyone listening to this to make sure you reach out to someone and say, it's okay to say I'm struggling.
Totally.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I also think just you're kind of addressing parents for a second, especially like in the beginning, and it's, parents, be a safe space for your kids.
Yeah.
Where no matter what they're going through or when they make mistakes, just be a safe place for them to be able to come and to know that they will be loved and accepted even if they make mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that's something my parents have done really well for me.
Yeah.
And something that has blessed my life a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I have a lot of people that are listening to this right now who, they've been estranged from their families. They've gone through some horrific things. So for those in those situations, reach out to a friend, reach out to us, right?
Totally.
Reach out to these three girls,
Yeah.
which we're gonna allow that if they want to. We'll say it at the end,
For
but
sure.
Absolutely.
happy
Yeah.
to chat.
and I don't say that lightly, by the way, guys, and that's your superpower. Look at how you handled it with her. It's your superpower. And had you not gone through all that work, you wouldn't be in a position to have been a rock for her, and vice versa. Look at all that you've been through and how you've had to, and again, and I know a lot of you might still be going through stuff. And, again, I don't know all about your lives, but it really does. That extra work ends up being the strength that we need. And it becomes a superpower,
Totally.
So I want to ask each one of you, how has your faith helped you through these times as well? And how, just what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
And why is that important to you?
Yeah. The first.
This is Annie, by the way.
Yes. Hi, Annie here. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is just identity and knowing who I am. Like knowing that I am, and this is my belief, it might not be everybody's, but belief that I am a child of God and that I have divine potential and that I have, an older brother, Jesus Christ, who's there to help me out whenever I need anything, that I can pray and receive help and inspiration and guidance for my life. And I believe that everyone has access to that as well. So when you're in the trenches, like whether it is a breakup or an eating disorder or the comparison on social media or feeling less than or feeling left out, like whatever it may be, like my faith has helped me to know that like there are brighter days ahead and that like my worth is always there. Like Heavenly Father will never think less of me. I will always be, his daughter. So that carries me through the hardest of times.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Thank
Yeah.
you. What do you think, Mady, on that?
Oh man, this is kind of a hard question for me. Because in all honesty, I the last few years have had different struggles with my faith on and off, and trying to decide what I believe and how I want to live my life. And, I've had a lot of, maybe we won't go into details, but a lot of my immediate and extended family members have left the church that I was raised in and have shared with me the reasons that they have left, and have shared with me some of their feelings of anger and bitterness.
Sure, yeah.
And that's been hard to sit with. And for a while, it was really hard for me to kind of decide, like, okay, well, what's my path going to be?
You're right.
And I'm grateful to feel like I'm kind of on the other end of that now. But one thing I would say that I just like that my faith has done for me, and my belief in Jesus Christ as Savior has done for me, is that it's given me hope, especially even like through some of those faith struggles that I never thought I would have,
Yeah.
Just to know that I can have hope for a better world, for a better life, to understand the principle that I'm an agent to act and not to be acted upon, that I can't always control what happens to me, and I can't even control how some of those things impact me, but I can control the kind of person that I become because of those things.
Yeah.
And I think recognizing that and holding on to that and recognizing that faith is a choice has been something that's been really powerful for me. And it's been really cool. It was cool for me even just to sit and listen to Annie talk about kind of her faith, because she came in my life right when all of this kind of started happening, and has just been kind of a rock for me and has helped me in a lot of ways with that. So I think, those principles of just hope, things will get better, they can get better, and I'm the one who can make things get better. You know, I get to choose that for myself.
Yeah, very well said, and thanks for your vulnerability on that. I know it's, you know, this can be a touchy situation, and there's a lot of people who are in your same boat. I say this all the time to my clients, that adversity is the wake-up call to your greatness. And I think no matter if it's faith, if it's a depression, if it's school, if it's friendships, if whatever our struggles are, I think it's always trying to wake us up. At the end of the day, wake up to your greatness, you know. And so thank you for sharing that. And, you know, I really say this and believe this, that the amount of vulnerability we're willing to express will be equal to the amount of happiness we'll experience in life.
Yeah.
So when vulnerability goes up, happiness goes up. When vulnerability goes down, happiness goes down. So not only thank you for being vulnerable here, Mady, for a minute there, but just all of you, the vulnerability you guys show with each other. I mean, that's why you guys are happy with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, right?
Yeah.
And to see that. So anyway, thanks for, I just had these thoughts as you were saying that.
Yeah.
Really powerful.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Ken?
Yeah, I think one thing my faith has done for me is giving me a greater love and understanding for other people. But I think that first had to come from a place of loving and understanding myself. And I really loved what Annie said. And I think it's one thing that Annie, it's like her gift. Like, she genuinely is friends with everyone. Everyone. Annie knows everyone, and everyone knows Annie, and everyone loves Annie. And I think, like, through their examples and through my own struggles and, you know, struggles of loved ones that I've just really come to know through my faith that, like, that I can just, I feel like I have the ability to just love people for who they are now.
Right.
You could have asked me this in 2020, and because I didn't love myself, I couldn't find a way to love other people. I really struggled with that because I just genuinely couldn't find that in myself. And through my Savior and my brother, Jesus Christ, I've been able to, you know, get picked up along the way. And I feel like I'm at a place now in my faith where I genuinely feel my Heavenly Father's love, or God, or your higher power, or whoever it may be, this love that He has for you. And I genuinely believe that. I think He loves all of us. And I've been able to I think I've been lucky enough to experience that, because I think I'm able to see people for who they are because of the faith that I have.
Yeah,
So.
beautifully said. Thank you, sweetheart. That's my daughter, by the way. I was calling him sweetheart. What's that? Thank you, guys. I know sometimes that's a very vulnerable question as well, but thank you so much. A couple more things. I want to hear from you guys. If a parent right now is getting ready to send their kids off to college, is there any advice that, not just to the parents, but maybe to that kid who's going to embark in college, and is there one thing you could tell them that would help them, you know, just be a little more prepared or a little more ready? And maybe I know there's a million things you could tell them probably, but Annie, is there anything that maybe comes to mind that you could maybe share?
Less time to think than these guys.
I put you right on the spot.
That's okay. I kind of thought about this a little bit before. So two things come to my mind, and like, this is gonna sound so cheesy, but like, I genuinely think it matters, and that is just like, live your life and don't really care about what other people are gonna think about you. Like, people in college will judge you, people will have their own opinions about you, but like, if you're just a good, kind person doing your best, like, that's all that matters. And like, don't get caught up in what are they saying about me, like what are they thinking. The second thing that comes to my mind, and this is applicable to anyone going to college, or honestly, I think just life in general, but it's something that's helped me a ton, especially as we've been like talking about social media today. And that is just gratitude. Like focus on what you do have rather than what you don't have, and what you do have will be enough. Like don't worry about what trip, so and so is going on, or who went on a date with this boy, or like whatever it is. Just focus on, okay, like this is my life, this is what my life looks like, this is what I have, and that's all I need. So I think gratitude has been actually super healing for me.
Yeah, gratitude's powerful. Thank you. Mady?
You might have had less time to think, but you took mine.
Oh.
So
That's okay. If it's the same thing, it's okay. It's all good.
I feel like gratitude is such a big one. I've tried to keep a gratitude journal, and I'm not always consistent with it. But I notice a significant difference in my life when I'm focusing on gratitude and being intentional with that versus not. And there's a phrase, and I want to get this like put on a little thing and frame it and put it in my room, but it just this like phrase of, my grass is always greener, because I think so many times, like we've talked about earlier, it's like it just seems like the grass is greener on the other side, like other people aren't struggling, they seem fine, or this or that. And it's just kind of that mentality of, like my grass is always greener, and that's because I water my grass, I take care of myself, and I do these things.
Wow. Love that.
Yeah. And
I want that plaque in my
Yeah.
house.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, if you ever,
Make us all one.
Maddie's the queen of quotes. So if you ever need some sort of motivational quote, go to Mady.
That's awesome.
Yes,
I
that
know
was
what I'm getting you for Christmas.
well, I thought the same thing. I was like, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, right.
We can all hang them up.
The same thing. I love it.
Exactly. Yeah, so gratitude. And then also I would just say, don't be afraid to make mistakes, like it's accept that you're going to make them, and it's a part of life. And, for me, I started out college thinking I was going to study one thing, and then I switched back, and then I finished all the prerequisites to apply to the nursing program and realized I didn't want to do it. And so then I switched, and it delayed me being able to like finish school because I had to wait to apply to the program. But that program is where I met Annie, you know what I mean? Which is like, it's just interesting to see. And then Kenidee. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be here if those things hadn't happened. But in the middle, I was just so frustrated with like, why can't I make a decision? And I don't feel any clarity about like one thing that I'm supposed to do, or a particular path that's right. And you have to figure out life as you go. And that's totally okay. Just, have fun, try all the different things, and have fun figuring it out.
Wow. Beautifully said. Thank you. Ken?
I think for me, one of the first things I want to say is everything that you are feeling when you leave your house and you go to college and experience something new, everyone else is feeling the exact same way. And so you're not alone. Another thing, and I'm going to steal this from my dad, but he always says, if you want to be, give it away. So if you want to be happy, give away happiness. Go make someone else's day, and it'll make you happy. If you want to feel loved, go love someone else. And I just think that that's something that I've always tried to do. Once my dad told me that if you want to be happy, go give it away. If you want whatever you're wanting, go give it away and give it to someone else. And I think that's helped me a lot through my journey in school. So
you were listening.
I was listening.
Okay.
I need
all
to
those
go
years.
back and re-listen to this podcast and
I know.
take notes on all the things
Seriously.
I'm learning from all
No, I
of
told you
you.
this was going to be epic. Seriously, this
Yeah.
is so
Oh my
needed.
gosh.
Honestly, guys.
And I just want to bounce off of something that Kenidee said as well. Something that I really have loved about our friend group is that it's kind of like an inside thing that whenever one of us notices a person that we think is struggling, like, or maybe we just have like a little prompting. Like I remember we all went to church one day and we saw this girl and we were just like, we should go sit by her. And we went and sat by her, and after talked to her and befriended her and added her on social media. And it became this culture in our friend group where we just would try to be very inclusive and try to be the people who always uplifted others, and to be like, even though we have like our very tight bonds and connections as friends. It was like, hey, how can we help other people and befriend other people? Because like Kenidee said, everyone's going through struggles. And so I think to, make a friend, you have to be a friend. And it's just, I don't know.
So true. Thank you.
Yeah.
So cool. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
Seriously, this is like good stuff.
Good stuff.
So I'm going to ask you a really tough question. You think those were tough? You wait till this one. We'll
Start on that side.
We'll start
Yes.
we'll start on this direction.
I chose a good seat in the
Yeah.
middle.
Yeah, you gotta kind of
Safe
Me and
either
Kenidee
way.
are like,
I know, right?
push it over there.
Yeah.
What do you love most about yourself?
Wow.
Whoa. That's a good one.
Wow. I think this is a hard question because it's something that I couldn't answer for a long time. Why am I the crier? Start in the middle next time. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's something that I really, really struggled with. If we want to, physical, I could say now that I do love my long legs. I do love being tall. As much as I hated it for years, it's like, in a way, my superpower. But I think
Now you're in line with everybody else because everyone loved your long legs.
Especially
Exactly.
the boys.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yes.
Tall queen.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think one thing that I love about myself is my ability to love. I think that I've been faced with struggles. I've been faced, I've been so blessed to grow up in a great loving family. Shout out to the fam. I've had great friends. And I think because I've always just felt so loved, I've gained this love for myself. And now, I enjoy talking to the person sitting alone, or I enjoy, saying hi to someone at the grocery store. Like, I genuinely just feel like I love my ability to love others.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
through a lot of work, I'm now able to love people for who they are and for what they believe and what they, whatever their struggles are. We might have a lot of differences and might not see eye to eye, but I genuinely feel like I can find a love for them. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love
Mady.
So it's kind of funny, like with any personality test that I've taken or, career aptitude tests or things like that, I always score very high with empathy. And I'd say that that's one thing that I love about myself is that because I have that attribute, I'm able to connect with so many different kinds of people.
Yeah.
Like I can genuinely sit down with someone who just has had such a different life experience from me and enjoy my time with them and connect with them on a level that's been just like really special and meaningful for me. And, I love to be able to empathize with others and connect with other people.
And she's really good at it.
And hopefully, well, sometimes, and hopefully help them to feel loved and help them to see what's special about them.
Yeah, because you feel what they're going through. You feel it. You don't just like, they're probably struggling. I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
No, you feel it.
Which
right?
Absolutely, which presents its challenges
Yes,
at
that
times.
can
I
also
have
be
to be
heavy.
careful
Yeah,
not to kind of have like that empathy burnout.
Just had a drink
Kicked
malfunction.
over. Yeah.
We just had a drink malfunction, but we're good. We're all good.
Have to be careful with it, but I really do love how it lets me connect with other people.
Love that. Thank you. Annie.
Yes.
So you had plenty of time to think.
I did. I wish the question was we could say what we love about each other because I could write a very long list.
I know you could. And, but that's too easy.
And I will also say that I have been the recipient of Maddie's empathy and Kennedee's love. So they are like totally right in line with their strengths. For me, I feel like I have been very, very blessed, obviously, with my circle of friends like we've been talking about today. And I like love and adore my nieces and nephews. I have a great family, like a lot of really amazing people in my life, my husband. And because I love my people so much, I think a strength of mine is loyalty. Like I am like fiercely loyal, almost to a fault sometimes. To the people that I love the very most. Like, I want all of my people, my friends, my family, I want them to be safe. I want them to be loved. I don't want anyone to hurt them.
Right.
And I guess I am that way because of the kind of people that I have in my life.
Wow. Good stuff. You guys are awesome. Seriously. This is so cool. Seriously. This is, I mean, one of my favorite episodes. I'm not just saying this because
You
my
say that to all of your
I really
podcasts.
No, I you know, the reason why I'm saying that though is so many people need to hear this. Because again, your perspective, I haven't had this on here before. So this is really cool. I really appreciate you guys doing this. I guess this close to the final question here. What advice, you've already given some good advice, but if there is a girl, we'll specifically say girl right now, that is listening to this podcast who is struggling, they're in a dark place, they don't know where to go, where to turn. What advice would you give that one person who's hearing your voice right now? And we'll start with you, Mady.
Start in the middle.
Oh,
starting to-
no.
Yeah. But like just imagine that girl right now is listening to you and she needs something. What would you tell her?
I think kind of something that I touched on earlier, and that's that things can get better.
Mm-hmm.
That you can have hope.
Yeah.
You know, I think I kind of have thought, you know, as we've talked about our friendship and stuff, like I'm so blessed to have the friends that I do now, but it wasn't always that way. And when I was struggling with an eating disorder, like it was very isolating and I felt very alone. And I just had those, like I was in that dark place where I was just like, are things ever going to get better? And I guess that's just what I would say to someone is that it can get better.
Yeah.
Take little steps forward and things will get better day by day. And someday you'll be able to look back and you'll be able to see all of the progress that you made.
Yeah.
But just don't give up hope.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Ken?
I think kind of to piggyback off of what Mady said, and something that my dad's always told me and I think tells his clients, but is that you're okay. I think that's not something that I understood, you know, not to keep going back to an eating disorder, whatever struggle you may have, it doesn't define you and you're okay. You're okay. That thing is your superpower and it doesn't feel like it in the moment. There's going to be dark times.
Yeah.
And that's normal and it's hard and I wish there weren't those dark times, but I'm grateful for them and just know that you're okay and you're not alone and don't let that little thing define you. Let it lift you up and let it power you.
Dang.
So
Love it. How about you, Annie? What would you say?
Right along with them that there really is light at the end of the tunnel and you just have to be patient day by day. Like, I think just knowing that in your mind is extremely important. And if you're in a place where you can, like, I feel like what has pulled me out of some of the darkest times is getting outside of myself and just going and serving somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, I truly believe that service is the best, like, remedy out there to sadness, depression, like, whatever it is. Like, if you're going through a very hard time, like, someone else is as well. And it gets your mind off of yourself even just for a second, not to make your struggles feel small or anything like that. Like, you're validated in how you're feeling, but go help someone else. And I promise, like, you'll feel happier. You'll feel more full or more joy.
Love that. You know, Mady, since you're the quote girl, would you read that out loud for our listeners?
Absolutely. The most delightful surprise in life is to suddenly recognize there is nothing wrong with you.
Surprise. You know, thank you for reading that. It's a quote near and dear to me. I have people sitting on this very couch who are heroin addicts, drug addicts. They've been to prison. They've blown up their lives. They've lost their family. They lost loved ones. And I have them read that on day one. And 9 9 times out of 10, almost 10 out of 10, they start crying. And I'll say, have you ever heard that before? And they'll say, never. And the truth is, like you said, despite our struggles, you're still okay. Meaning it doesn't feel okay, but that's the issue, is that really you are, you just don't know it yet. And I think having great friends like you guys have been to each other, I think that's ultimately what happened. Correct me if I'm wrong, that when you're struggling and Annie's helped you, she ultimately just made you realize you're okay. Right?
True.
And when you were struggling, Mady, and Kenidee talked to you, ultimately she was basically telling you, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, is that fair?
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How powerful that is. Seriously, you guys are amazing. Any final words? Any final comments before we wrap it up? Anything else you'd like to add or say?
I don't know.
A funny joke? I don't know. What do you got? You know?
Kennedee's queen of the jokes.
I know. I was gonna say we're looking to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Well, I'm just going to say, all of you, what I love about all three of you is the vulnerability, period. Right? But if I was to add, I would say you're definitely one of the kindest people I've ever met. Bonnie would say the same thing. Mady, you're the most energetic, competitive person I think I've met, outside of a few other people that I may know. But I love that about you. You are. I mean, this girl ticks me off. She shows up at the Spartan. It's never trained for it. The day before she decides to sign up, and I watch her run right past me on the mountain. I've been training for 6 months, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I hadn't trained, but I'm good." And she's just bouncing off the mountains.
I still cannot believe I did that.
But
That was a very rash decision.
But I
such
just
a
want you to
Mady
know
thing.
that really was so impressive to me, honestly. You know,
Thank
and what I
you.
love about you, Ken. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But just again, you and I are so much alike in our family.
Yeah.
And we're kind of all or nothing. And it's just kind of nice to have someone who's gone through what I've gone through. So.
Yeah.
Just kind of like when you knew Mady was struggling, it's just nice to know, not that I'm glad you're going through it, but to know that, hey, you know, I've been through this and I'm able to give back, but to see how you've risen above this and have worked on it, you're the hardest worker around these things. You truly are. And that is impressive. So anyway, I love you guys.
Can I say
Seriously.
one last thing? Just a little shout out to my dad.
Yeah.
I mean, I started studying psychology and I was always like, I want to do what my dad does. I want to help people.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd never had my own struggles. I was like, well, I'm not a recovered addict. Like, how am I supposed to relate with these people? I had struggles, but nothing that I felt like I could help someone with. And then only a couple months later, I felt like my world was crashing. But I just want to say, like, I've always wanted to be like my dad. I've always wanted to help people. And it might not seem like I listen to you, but I do. And you've been helpful. And I have people all the time tell me how great you are. So we're going to flip it on you.
Thank you.
You're great.
Thank you.
You're a great
Thank
leader
you.
and
I
example.
appreciate it.
The
Appreciate
truly great make other people believe that they are great too. That's you.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Another quote by Matt.
Another quote by Matt.
End quote.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
She's going to
She
trademark
only
that.
speaks in quotes,
Only
actually.
speaks in quotes. Well, I get a lot of people when I post these podcasts that they might want to ask you guys a question. Again, if you're comfortable sharing how they can get a hold of you, great. If you're not, that's okay too. They can reach out to me and I can direct them to you if you want. But would you guys want them to reach out to you if they have a question?
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So what would be the best way, Annie, for if someone wanted to ask you, Annie, specifically a question?
Yeah.
What would be the best
what
way?
do you guys think?
You could send
Social
an
media
you could do
or
social
email?
media handle
Yeah.
or you could do an email.
Yeah.
Whatever you're most comfortable with.
I have literally 80,000 unread emails, so if you
Yeah.
email me,
And I
I
was like,
will not see it. So probably social media.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how would they do that?
Do you want me to drop that here?
Yeah. Drop it here.
Drop it here. At Annie H. Rees. So
Okay.
ANNIEHREES. And yes, I'd be more than happy to talk. And I love connecting with people.
Great.
So
Okay.
please reach out.
Awesome. Maddie?
Yeah, same for me. Probably
Okay.
Instagram is the best way to go.
Yeah.
My handle's at Mady Ann, but it's MADYYYANNE. All the
Triple threat.
the handles, yeah.
Hat trick.
That was me desperately just trying to find a handle that worked with my
Yeah,
name, and all
right,
of them
yeah.
had been taken. So
Maddie
Maddie with 3
Ann.
Y's.
Maddie.
Maddie Ann.
I love it. Ken?
Probably same for me. Social media.
Okay.
It's at Kenidee Ray, spelled different. So it's KENIDEERAYE.
Love it. I'll put that in the show notes too, so people can just get right there from it. But thank you guys.
Yeah,
Seriously,
thank you.
this is so awesome.
Thanks for having
We
us.
love
Thanks
being here.
Thank you. Thanks for being vulnerable. Thanks for your perspective. I've learned a ton just sitting here listening to you, honestly. And I think every parent listening to this is going to be so excited that they hear some information that they can share with their kids. It doesn't have to just be their daughter; it can be their son. I mean, I learned so much from you guys today, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a light in this
Mhm.
world. We need it. We need people like you who have empathy and kindness and love. We need it. And so thank you for sharing some of that with me today.
Thank you.
I'll end with this. I had a client of mine who has been to prison and up and down and, rehabs back and forth, overdosed several times and survived it. And I had the group get up the other day and share one thing that meant something to him, and kind of like a quote. He stood up, and this has been on my mind ever since. He said this: I tried to find myself I could not see. I tried to find my God eluded me. I tried to find my brother or my sister, and I found all three.
Love that.
How beautiful is that?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And that's what you guys are for each other. You guys are reaching out to your brothers and sisters, and that's why you have found yourselves. That's why you have found your faith in your God, or whatever that is for you guys. And for you listening, I challenge you to do the same. Like you all said, go reach out and do something for somebody else. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, guys, thank you for being here. Thanks for tuning in. If you have a son or a daughter, I don't care how old they are, share this with them. Share this with your entire family. Thank you for all your love and support. Thank you to my sponsors. Thank you for the beautiful music that you're going to hear at the beginning and end of this. It's by Paul Cardall, a good friend of mine now. And this was awesome.
That's good.
This is why I do this. This is why I do it. Anyway, I love you guys. Until next time.